Hey guys! Now it's been a while since I reviewed a Neca figure, and mentally I was kind of thinking, should I ever really review one again? Because I didn't have the greatest experience with the TF2 Neca figures, but I saw one that I couldn't pass up. What you see here today, although it's a little hard to see because it's all covered up, is the Doc Brown figure from Neca. And as you can see behind the figure, I reviewed the Hot Toys Marty McFly quite a long time ago, which I have a video still of. And I also just have a lot of DeLoreans lying around, so I had to include one for this review. It's pretty rare for a Doc Brown to be available, so I figured, screw it, I'll give him another chance and see if this figure is better than the previous ones. So, first of all, let's take a peek inside. It has this little flap that's velcroed, so you can actually see the figure. Now I will say, the thing that drew me to reviewing this figure was the fact that Christopher Lloyd's very memorable extreme face is something I don't often see on figures, and the fact that this one gives us not just one, but two very extreme Christopher Lloyd faces made me realize that I should probably check this one out. As you can see, this is the Doc Brown from the first movie, and actually from the 1950s Doc Brown, as he still has that kind of yellowish tint to his hair, and he hasn't gotten quote-unquote old yet, even though he looks pretty much the same as he does in his 1985 counterpart. But yeah, this is their approach, all nicely gussied up with blue lights and the clock tower in the background. So let's check this guy out and see if he's as good. Now, one thing to note right off the bat is that my edition had a little bit of a problem here, as you can see during shipping, with some of the pieces. It looks like this little insert that has some of the accessories got kind of tossed around, but everything still seems to be intact, so we'll still check it out regardless. I will say also, it's a little weird to show him off with his, what appears to be almost like double jointed elbows, like pretty much bent outwards. Like it almost kind of looks a little broken of a pose just from his default arrangement inside the box. So that's a little awkward, but we'll forget that for now. Let's just take a peek real quick at the rest of the box. Let's see, Ultimate Doc Brown, they're calling it. You got some pictures of it in action. I didn't get the Martys because I already obviously have pretty much a premium Marty in the Hot Toys version, but there's two other Martys. The Darth Vader Marty, if you remember what I'm talking about, the Doc Brown, and of course Biff. So that's kind of a nice arrangement, especially, I don't know, this is for the anniversary collection, so they're probably not going to go past this number of characters, but if they did, like, if this was like a wave 1 or something, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing like a wave 2. Yeah. So let's open them up. Now this comes with, they said, a flux capacitor blueprint. I want to destroy that. If you wanted to keep this, but I probably wouldn't recommend it. This is his original Dr. Brown, or Emmett Brown estate home that they have the background paper in. Let's put that off to the side. So this is interesting. I thought it said flux capacitor, but God, it's so hard to see because they're fine lines. This looks like the blueprint of his home. Whoops. I actually need to rewatch the movie because I think, if memory serves, when Marty tries to talk to him and then he mentions Ronald Reagan and all that stuff that makes Emmett not believe Marty saying he's from the future, I think this was maybe what was rolled up in his hands as he ran from his main home to what appeared to be his garage or his work space. I had to get my special lenses out for this one because it's so goddamn small. The one that, the note that Marty famously wrote inside the diner trying to tell Emmett about all the events that were about to occur and how to prevent himself from getting killed. It's sealed on the back. This is perfect size for the figure, but this is also, as you can see, extremely small to the point that I think this is in focus where it says do not open, but man, it is tiny writing. And the hastily written concept of the flux capacitor that Marty was trying to tell Doc Brown about to convince him he knew him from the future. Okay, but enough with a little obscure reference props. Let's get to the main attraction here. Okay. Okay, all right, first thing off the bat, it's really interesting, his coat is a very soft, pliable plastic. It's not hard, which often in the case of these cheaper kind of figures, or less expensive figures at least, this would have been just some hard plastic that wouldn't really move. So in terms of posing, it's nice that this will kind of be able to adjust to whatever leg positioning you have. So that's a welcome choice. This head has a joint right here, as you can see, but it facilitates a decent amount of movement. It looks like the main neck itself doesn't move. So if you were trying to get it looking a little bit more natural by having this neck twist along with it, you're not going to get that with this figure. But he's very movie or character, person accurate. That's a very good likeness for a small, I mean, we're talking, this is like a 6-inch figure. For a 6-inch figure, I'm actually pretty damn impressed that it looks very much like Christopher Lloyd. This sweater appears to be some kind of soft, pliable plastic as well, but it very clearly does not kind of lift above this much, and I don't want to risk it. Still, let's see, does that mean you could twist? No. Okay. So, okay, I get it. This basically is soft because it allows you to twist his hips underneath without causing too many issues. The downside is, though, I guess there's some kind of twist joint in between here, but this does kind of hinder, as you can see, it hinders the ability to really bend his upper torso really far forward, because see, it doesn't go super far, or backwards. So you're gonna get minimal movement, unfortunately, with the top part there. The details on his slacks are kind of nice. They're like this textured fabric that I guess is supposed to be, is this like a corduroy in the movie? Maybe, maybe not. But as you can see, there's like a texture to it. That's kind of cool. Knee, I've been so burned in the past with knees, but looks like these knees bend relatively fine. Let me check the other one here. This one as well. There might be some element of double jointedness hidden underneath this thigh section, but I can't totally tell. But that's fine. Oh, get some clicky here. The ankle, despite its clickiness, does sound like it, or does look like it can move to adjust for posing, which is nice. There's some nice details in the fabric, like you could see the fabric pattern of his socks. He's a very awkward looking dude. There is no bend to the ball of his foot, so this is a pretty flat surface for him. Just be aware of that. You're not going to get any crazy bend in it as he's running or something like that. He's got his gloves. This is pretty clearly around the time that they're about to do the test with the lightning pole, because I remember he had his gloves when he was setting up the equipment. So there's that. Also, after he's already hit his head, he's got the bandage when he was telling Marty that he hit his head on the toilet. Now, the weird thing here I wanted to experiment with when I saw it in the box are these elbows. These are very weird, and they are noticeably weird when they bend, because look how it makes this weird third fabric section joint when it's bent. I don't know if there's a better way to do that so that it doesn't look so obvious that there's a bend, but it's strange. See, it makes a U shape when he bends his arms instead of more of a sharper V. Maybe that's a good thing. I don't know. You might be able to get potentially better posing out of him that way. Oh gosh, yeah. So for anybody that was hoping to get his arms lifted up above his head, will not really get that unless you see here. There's no give in his shoulder, so this is pretty much just going to stay like that. So it's pretty limiting, but there's not much you could do about that. It's also weird that this lapel here is soft, but this one here seems to be stuck down to his shoulder. I don't know why there's a difference. That's a little weird, but whatever. So yeah, strange elbow joint, but seems serviceable. It does look, as you can see here, very noticeable when it's extended, so that doesn't look great. I also don't like how, if you look up close here, this is similar to the joint issue I had with the TF2 figures, where I don't know if this white bit here was initially painted or not. On the TF2 figures, it used to be colored or painted the same as the surrounding arm, and it just gets chipped away almost instantaneously when you bend it. So maybe that happened here and I just didn't notice it. But yeah, with the light bouncing off this more, you could see the definite difference in color between the joint and the surrounding fabric. So that's not a great look, honestly. I wish, and there's no real way for you to hide it either, because see, this is kind of his natural, you know, his arm at its full length, so you can't really twist it to hide this joint. So that's kind of ugly when everything else on this figure looks so good by comparison. See what I'm saying? He almost looks like a slight cyborg or robot, which is a little disappointing. But let's look at the accessories and his heads. Now, first off, again, give a lot of props to whoever styled the faces. Very realistic. Good paint job too, I gotta say. For a small figure, really nicely done. I like it quite a bit. Marty's face is not quite as accurate to Michael J. Fox, which is kind of a hard thing to do because he doesn't have a lot of super distinctive features on his face, and that's usually harder when people are sculpting like a likeness. But Christopher Lloyd definitely has a lot of distinct features on his face, and you know, even the way his mouth slopes and has that kind of asymmetrical slant to it, and that little mole or whatever he always has on his cheek, like they got it all down. See this weird, there's like a separation between the skull and his hair. I don't know why that is. But in normal viewing, you're not really going to notice that. It's just if you have him do something like that where you'll be like, what the hell is that? Like, why does it have like a flap of hair, essentially? Of course, though, is his freaked out face. Now, I know if you put it right next to his face in the movie, it's not exact, right? But I think it's, at least I'm thinking from memory, but it's pretty damn close. They did a really good job here. It's pretty hilarious. Really good. He has the little wrench that he was using to attach stuff outside at night. And we also get two ungloved hands if you don't want him to be wearing those darkened gloves. You can even see on sort of when the light bounces off of it, there's a little bit of wrinkling on his hands. He's got his watch that he checks everything against. And this one was, oh, did he actually have two watches? Maybe he did. That's one of those little details I'm not sure I ever super paid attention enough to notice. But yeah, so he has one watch on one hand and the other on the other hand. The last element here are his goggles. So let's see how hard it is. Did they do it for this reason? Okay, maybe the reason why there's this cut in here, and I'm just guessing, is to make it easier to put on his goggles. Because see, normally this would not fit over his head, right? It just would not fit. But yeah, there is just enough give, and I would recommend you being extremely careful with this little plastic strap because it's not elastic. And if you pull it too hard, it will probably at some point someday snap. It fits perfectly within here if you just carefully ease it around his ears. I'm gonna have to compare this to the movie right afterwards. I'm pretty sure he had these on when he goes, oh, you know, when his stuff starts going up in flames after his little experiment or his presentation to show Marty. Yeah, so that looks pretty great. And the way they've done it, again, with this other head is, in theory, since they both have this under hair element, you should be able to also put the goggles on the other head if you wanted to, although it looks pretty much perfect on this one. And the last thing I do is, even though there are 2 holes at the base, if you had a stand to put them on, which they don't include, you could have him much more easily stand up by himself. I always do the standing test to make sure, like, look, does he solidly feel like he can stand up on his own? And more or less he does fit the bill for that. There's some characters who almost instantly fall over, so you know that it's going to be a little more difficult with them, but Doc Brown, thankfully, seems to do it just fine. One other little thing, if you want him to hold the letter, it's just going to have to kind of slightly rest in his hand, because he does not include a hand type that more tightly can hold either of these paper pieces. So that's kind of a weird downside, which makes me think that adding these accessories was just a nice cheap afterthought, because they could. But, you know, whatever. At least it's part of the whole package. Now, I think this particular figure I actually was able to get on Amazon, and they run somewhere between, like, it's like mid-20s, like maybe 25 bucks or so, with the care that they took with the face, and in general with the approach to the materials used for the body. It's a pretty good value for that price. So Neca, you almost redeemed yourself with this one. It's a pretty good figure, a good likeness. I would say, if anybody is listening, this weird shit with the elbows, maybe try something else for next time. It's very distracting, and it mars a pretty much otherwise flawless figure, because everything else is very well hidden in terms of the joints on him. So that's the only thing that was kind of a bummer for me. So that's the Ultimate Doc Brown from Neca. Overall, good value, good price, and I recommend it. Until next time, thanks for watching.